Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We'd like to welcome everyone to our Sunday Krishna book reading to Srila Prabhupada. And as always, before we begin, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Nama Om Vishnuvedaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskachade Shatarane Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for letting us come and read to you. And as you remember, we started chapter 63 last week. Lord Krishna fights with Banasura. And we read a few pages. You can turn the pages till you get to the Shiva Dwara continued. All right, we'll wait till you catch up. We need another chair, right? Do you need a chair? Okay, good. All right, and you can take your seats here. You want to come? Okay. Very important, we come on time. Okay. All right, I'm going to start. The Shiva Dwara continued. Therefore, my Lord, your body is completely peaceful, completely blissful, and devoid of material contamination. In the material body, there are actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. The time factor is the most important element above all others because the material manifestation is affected by the agitation of time. Just go around, Santosh. Thus, natural phenomena come into existence, and as soon as phenomena appear, fruitive activities are visible. As the result of these fruitive activities, a living entity takes his form. He acquires a particular nature, packed up in a subtle body and gross body formed by the life air, the ego, the 10 sense organs, the mind, and the 5 gross elements. These then create the type of body which later becomes the root cause of various other bodies, which are acquired one after another by means of the transmigration of the soul. All these phenomenal manifestations are the combined actions of your material energy. You, however, are the cause of this external energy, and thus you remain unaffected by the action and reaction of the different elements. And because you are transcendental to such compulsions of material energy, you are the supreme tranquility. You are the last word in freedom from material contamination, and I therefore take shelter at your lotus feet, giving up all other shelter. Remember to hold the microphone close to your mouth. Speak slowly, loudly, and with expression.
My dear Lord, your appearance as the son of Vasudeva in your role as a human being is one of the pastimes of your complete freedom. To benefit your devotees and vanquish the no-devotees, you appear in multi-incarnations. All such incarnations descend in fulfillment of your promise in the Bhagavad-Gita that you appear as soon as there are discrepancies in the system of progressive life. When there are disturbances by irregular principles, my dear Lord, you appear by your internal potency. Your main business is to protect and maintain the demigods and spiritually inclined persons, and to maintain the standard of material law and order. Considering your mission of maintaining such law and order, Your violence toward the miscreants and demons is quite befitting. This is not the first time you have incarnated. It is to be understood that you have done so many times before.
My dear Lord, I beg to submit that I have been very greatly chastised by the release of your Narayan Jwara, which is certainly very cooling, yet at the same time secretly dangerous, severely dangerous and unbearable for all of us. My dear Lord, as long as one is forgetful of Krishna consciousness, driven by the spell of the material desires and ignorant of the ultimate shelter at your lotus feet, one who has accepted this material body becomes disturbed by the three miserable conditions of the material nature. Because one doesn't surrender unto you, he continues to suffer perpetually. After hearing the
Let's just stick to one paragraph. Okay. Very, very short. Like 4 to 5.
After hearing the Sivajvara, Lord Krishna replied, O three-headed one, I am pleased with your statement. Be assured that there will be no more suffering for you from the Narayana Jvara. Not only are you now free from fear of the Narayana Jvara, but anyone in the future who simply recollects this fight between you and the Narayana Jvara will also be freed from all kinds of fear. After hearing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Sivajvara offered respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet and left.
In the meantime, Banasura somehow or other recovered from his setbacks and with rejuvenated energy returned to fight. This time Banasura appeared before Lord Krishna, who was seated on his chariot with different kinds of weapons in his 1,000 hands. Very much agitated, Banasura splashed his different weapons upon the body of Lord Krishna like torrents of rain. When Lord Krishna saw the weapons of Banasura coming at him like water coming out of a strainer, he took his sharp-edged Sudarshan disc and began to cut off the demon's 1,000 arms, one after another, just as a gardener trims the twigs of a tree with sharp cutters. When Lord Shiva saw that his devotee Banasura could not be saved even in his presence, he came to his senses and personally came before Lord Krishna and began to pacify him by offering the following prayers.
Lord Shiva said, My dear Lord, you are the worshipable object of Vedic hymns. One who does not know you consider the impersonal Brahma Jyoti to be the ultimate supreme absolute truth. Without knowledge that you exist behind your spiritual effulgence in your eternal abode. My dear Lord, you are therefore called Parabrahma. Indeed, the words Parama Brahma have been used in Bhagavad-Gita to identify you. Saintly persons who have completely cleansed their hearts of all material contamination can realize your transcendental form. Although you are all pervading like the sky, unaffected by any material thing, only the devotees can realize you and no one else. In the impersonalist conception of your supreme existence, the sky is just like your navel. Fire is your mouth and the water is your semen.
It's a long paragraph.
It's not very long.
Cut it in half because we have a lot of readers. Right?
The heavenly planets are your head, all the directions are your ears, the earth, Urvi, is your lotus feet, the moon is your mind, and the sun is your eye. As far as I am concerned, I act as your ego. The ocean is your abdomen, and the king of heaven, Indra, is your arm. Trees and plants are the hairs on your body. The clouds are the hair on your head, and Lord Brahma is your intelligence. All the great progenitors known as the Prajapatis are your symbolic representatives. And religion is your heart. The impersonal feature of your supreme body is conceived of in this way, but you are ultimately the supreme person. The impersonal feature of your supreme body is only a small expansion of your energy. You are likened to the original fire, and your expansions are its heat and light and heat.
Just have and then pass on.
Lord Shiva continued, My dear Lord, since you are manifested universally, the different parts of the universe are the different parts of your body. And by your inconceivable potency, you can simultaneously be both localized and universal. In the Brahma Samhita, we also find it stated that although you always remain in your abode, Golok Vrindavan, you are present everywhere. As stated in the Bhagavad-Gita, you appear in order to protect the devotees, and thus your appearance indicates good fortune for all the universe. All of the demigods are directing different affairs of the universe by your grace only. Thus, the seven upper planetary systems are maintained by your grace. At the end of this creation, all manifestations of your energies, whether in the shape of demigods, human beings, or lower animals, enter into you, and all immediate and remote causes of the cosmic manifestation rest in you without, without distinctive features of existence.
Are you having it now? That's the half of the paragraph. Ultimately,
There is no possibility.
ultimately,
Ultimately there is no possibility.
sit up straight and close to your mouth and loudly. Prabhupada needs to hear you. Very loud.
Ultimately there is no possibility of distinction between you and any other thing on an equal level with you or subordinate to you. You are thing on an equal level with you are subordinate to you. You are simultaneously the cause of this cosmic manifestation and its ingredients as well. You are the supreme whole, one without a second in the phenomenal manifestation. There are three stages: the stages of consciousness, the stage of semi consciousness, in dreaming, and the stage of unconsciousness.
A little louder.
But your lordship dreaming and the stage of unconsciousness, but your lordship is transcendental to all these different material stages of existence. You exist therefore in a fourth dimension, and your appearance and disappearance do not depend on anything beyond yourself. You are the supreme cause of everything, but of you there is no cause. You yourself cause your own appearance and disappearance. Despite your transcendental position, my Lord, in order to show your six opulence and advertise your transcendental qualities, you have appeared in your different incarnation: fish, tortoise, boar, Nrsimha, Keshava, and other by your personal manifestation, and you have appeared as different living entity by your separated manifestation. By your internal potency, you appear as the different incarnation of Vishnu, and by your external potency, you appear as the phenomenal world.
On a cloudy day, to the common man's eyes, the sun appears to be covered. But the fact is that because the sunshine creates the cloud, the sun can never actually be covered, even though the whole sky may be cloudy. Similarly, less intelligent men claim that there is no God. But when the manifestation of different living entities and their activities is visible, enlightened persons see you present in every atom through the medium of your external and marginal energies. Your unlimitedly potent activities are experienced by the most enlightened devotees. But those who are bewildered by the spell of your external energy identify themselves with this material world and become attached to society, friendship, and love. Thus, they embrace the threefold miseries of material existence and are subjected to the dualities of pain and pleasure, sometimes drowning in the ocean of attachment and sometimes being taken out of it.
My dear Lord, only by your mercy and grace can the living entity get the human form of life, which is the chance to get out of the miserable condition of material existence. However, a person who possesses a human body but who cannot bring his senses under control is carried away by the waves of sensual enjoyment. As such, he cannot take shelter of your lotus feet and thus engage in your devotional service. The life of such a person is very unfortunate, and anyone living such a life of darkness is certainly cheating himself and thus cheating others also. Therefore, human society without Krishna consciousness is a society of cheaters and the cheated.
My Lord, you are actually the dearmost super soul of all living entities and the supreme controller of everything. The human being who is always illusioned is afraid of ultimate death. A man who is simply attached to sensual enjoyment voluntarily accepts the miserable material existence and thus wanders after the will-o'-the-wisp of sense pleasure. He is certainly the most foolish man, for he drinks poison and puts aside the nectar. My dear Lord, all the demigods, including myself and Lord Brahma, as well as great saintly persons and sages who have cleansed their hearts of material attachment, have, by your grace, wholeheartedly taken shelter of your lotus feet. We have all taken shelter of you because we have accepted you as the Supreme Lord and the dearmost life and soul of all of us. You are the original cause of this cosmic manifestation. You are its supreme maintainer, and you are the cause of its dissolution also. You are equal to everyone, the most peaceful, supreme friend of every living entity. You are the supreme worshipable object for every one of us. My dear Lord, let us always be engaged in your transcendental loving service so that we may get free from this material entanglement.
Finally, my Lord, I may inform you that this Banasura is very dear to me. He has rendered valuable service unto me. Therefore, I want to see him always happy. Being pleased with him, I have assured him safety. I pray to you, my Lord, that as you were pleased with his forefathers, King Prahlad and Bali Maharaj, you will also be pleased with him.
After hearing Lord Shiva's prayer, Lord Krishna replied, "My dear Lord Shiva, I accept your statements and I also accept your desire for Banasura. I know that this Banasura is son of Bali Maharaj, and as such I cannot kill him, for that is my promise. I gave a benediction of King Prahlad that the demons who would appear in his family would never be killed by me. Therefore, without killing this Banasur, I have simply cut off his arm to deprive him for his false prestige. The large number of soldiers he was maintaining became a burden on this earth, and I have killed them all to minimize the burden. Now he has 4 remaining arms, and he will remain immortal, unaffected by material pains and pleasures. I know that he is one of the chief devotees of yours, Lordship, so you can now rest assured that henceforward he needs have no fear of anything."
When Banasura was blessed by Lord Krishna in this way, he came before the Lord and bowed down before him, touching his head on the earth. Banasura immediately arranged to have his daughter Usha seated with Aniruddha on a nice chariot, and then he presented them before Lord Krishna. After this, Lord Krishna took charge of Aniruddha and Usha, who had become very opulent materially because of the blessings of Lord Shiva. Thus, keeping forward the division of one Aksauhini of soldiers, Krishna proceeded toward Dwarka. In the meantime, all the people of Dwarka, having received the news that Lord Krishna was returning with Aniruddha and Usha in great opulence, decorated every corner of the city with flags, festoons, and garlands. All the big roads and crossings were carefully cleansed and sprinkled with sandalwood pulp mixed with water. Everywhere was the fragrance of sandalwood. All the citizens joined with their friends and relatives to welcome Lord Krishna with great pomp and jubilation. And tumultuous vibrations of conch shells, drums, and bugles received the Lord. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, entered his capital, Dwarka.
Shukadeva Goswami assured King Parikshit that the narration of the fight between the Lord Shiva and the Lord Krishna is not at all auspicious like ordinary fights. On the contrary, if one remembers in the morning the narration of this fight between the Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva and takes pleasure in the victory of Lord Krishna, he will never experience defeat anywhere in the struggle of the life. This episode of Banasura fighting with Krishna and later being saved by the grace of the Lord Shiva is confirmation of the statement in the Bhagavad-Gita that the worshippers of the demigod cannot achieve any benedictions without its being sanctioned by the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Here in this narration, we find that although Banasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, when he faced death by Krishna, Lord Shiva was not able to save him. But Lord Shiva appealed to Krishna to save his devotee, and this was sanctioned by the Lord. This is the position of Lord Krishna. The exact words used in this connection in the Bhagavad Gita are Mayeva Vihitan Hitan. This means that without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, no demigod can award any benediction to his worshipper. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 73rd chapter of Krishna. 63rd chapter of Krishna. Lord Krishna fights with Banasura. Hari Bo.
Chapter 64. The story of King Nirga. Once the family members of Lord Krishna, such as Samba, Pratyumna, Charu, Banu, and Gada, all princes of the Yadu dynasty, went for a long picnic in the forest near Dwaraka. In the course of their excursion, all of them became thirsty, and so they tried to find out where water was available in the forest. When they approached the well, they found no water in it. But on the contrary, within the well was a wonderful living entity. It was a large lizard, and all of them were astonished to see such a wonderful animal. They could understand that the animal was trapped and could not escape by its own effort. So, out of compassion, they tried to take the large lizard out of the well. Unfortunately, they could not get the lizard out, even though they tried to do so in many ways.
When the princes returned home, their story was narrated before Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the friend of all living entities. Therefore, after hearing the appeal from his sons, he personally went to the well and easily got the great lizard out simply by extending his left hand. Immediately upon being touched by the hand of Lord Krishna, that great lizard gave up its lizard shape and appeared as a beautiful demigod, an inhabitant of the heavenly planets. His complexion glittered like molten gold. He was decorated with fine garments, and he wore costly ornaments around his neck.
How the demigod had been obliged to accept the body of a lizard was not a secret to Lord Krishna, but still, for others' information, the Lord inquired, "My dear fortunate demigod, now I see that your body is so beautiful and lustrous. Who are you?" "We can guess that you are one of the best demigods in the heavenly planets. All good fortune to you. I think that you are not meant to be in this situation. It must be due to the results of your past activities that you were put into the species of lizard life. Still, I want to hear from you how you were put in this position. If you think that you can disclose the secret, then please tell us your identity."
Actually, this large lizard was King Nriga, and when questioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immediately bowed down before the Lord, touching to the ground the helmet on his head, which was as dazzling as the sunshine. In this way, he first offered his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. He then said, "My dear Lord, I am King Nriga, the son of King Ikshvaku. If you have ever taken account of all charitably disposed men, I am sure you must have heard my name. My Lord, you are the supreme witness. You are aware of every bit of work done by the living entities, past, present, and future. Nothing can be hidden from your eternal cognizance. Still, you have ordered me to explain my history, and I shall therefore narrate the full history, the full story."
King Nirga proceeded to narrate the history of his degradation caused by his karma kanda activities. He said that he had been very charitable disposed and had given away so many cows that the total was equal to the number of particles of dust on the earth. Stars in the sky or drops of water in a rainfall. According to the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, a man who is charitably disposed is recommended to give cows to the Brahmans. From King Nirga's statement, it appears that he followed this principle earnestly. However, as a result of slight discrepancy, he was forced to take birth as a lizard. Therefore, it is recommended by the Lord in the Bhagavad-Gita that one who is charitably disposed and desires to derive the benefit of his charity should offer his gift to please Krishna. To give charity means to perform peace activities by which one may be elevated to the higher planetary system, but promotion to the heavenly planet is no guarantee that one will never fall down. Rather, the example of King Nirga definitely proves that for fruitive activities, even if very pious cannot give us eternal blissful life as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. The result of work, either pious or impious, is sure to bind a man unless the work is discharged as yajna on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
King Nriga said that the cows he had given in charity were not ordinary cows. Each one was very young and had given birth to only one calf. They were full of milk, very peaceful and healthy. All the cows were purchased with money earned legally. Furthermore, their horns were gold-plated, their hoofs were bedecked with silver plating, and they were covered with necklaces and with silken wrappers embroidered with pearls. He stated that these valuably decorated cows had not been given to any worthless persons but had been distributed to first-class brahmanas, whom he had also decorated with nice garments and gold ornaments. The brahmanas were well qualified, and since none of them were rich, their family members were always in want for the necessities of life. A real brahmana never hoards money for a luxurious life like the Kshatriyas or the Vaishyas, but always keeps himself poverty-stricken, knowing that money diverts the mind to materialistic ways of life.
To live in this way is the vow of a qualified Brahmana, and all of these Brahmanas were well situated in that exalted vow. They were well learned in Vedic knowledge. They executed the required austerities and penances in their lives and were liberal, meeting the standard of qualified Brahmanas. They were equally friendly to everyone. Above all, they were young and quite fit to act as qualified Brahmanas. Besides the cows, they were also given the land, gold, houses, horses, and elephants. Those who were not married were given wives, maidservants, grain, silver, utensils, garments, jewels, household furniture, chariots, etc. This charity was nicely performed as a sacrifice according to the Vedic rituals. The king also stated that not only had he bestowed gifts upon the Brahmanas, but he had performed other pious activities such as digging wells, planting trees on the roadside, and installing ponds along the highways.
The king continued, "In spite of all this, unfortunately, one of the Brahmana's cows that I had given in charity chanced to enter amongst my other cows. Not knowing this, I again gave it in charity to another Brahmana. As the cow was being taken away by this Brahmana, its former master claimed it as his own, stating, 'This cow was formerly given to me. So how is it that you are taking it away?' Thus there was arguing and fighting between the two Brahmanas. And they came before me and charged that I had taken back a cow I had previously given in charity. To give something to someone and then to take it back is considered a great sin, especially in dealing with the Brahmana. When both Brahmanas charged the king with the same complaint, he was simply puzzled as to how it had happened. Thereafter, with great humility, the king offered each of them 1,00,000 cows in exchange for one cow that was causing the fight between them." Hare Krishna.
He prayed to them that he was He prayed to them that he was their servant and that there had been some mistake. Thus, in order to rectify it, he prayed that they be very kind upon him and accept his offering in exchange for the cow. The king fervently appealed to the Brahmanas not to cause his downfall into hell because of this mistake. A Brahmana's property is called Brahmanswa, and according to Manu's law, it cannot be acquired even by the government. Both Brahmanas, however, insisted that the cow was theirs and could not be taken back under any condition. Neither of them agreed to exchange it for the 1,00,000 cows. Thus, disagreeing with the king's proposal, the two Brahmanas left the place in anger, thinking that their lawful possessions had been usurped.
After this incident, when the time came for the king to give up his body, he was taken before Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, who asked him whether he first wanted to enjoy the results of his pious activities or suffer the results of his impious activities. Seeing that the king had executed so many pious activities and charities, Yamaraj also hinted that he did not know the limit of the king's future enjoyment. In other words, there would be practically no end to the king's material happiness. But in spite of this hint, the king, bewildered, decided first to suffer the results of his impious activities and then to accept the results of his pious activities. Therefore, Yamaraj immediately turned him into a lizard.
King Nigra had remained in the well as a big lizard for a very long time. He told Lord Krishna, "In spite of being put into that degraded condition of life, I simply thought of you, my dear Lord, and my memory was never vanquished." It appears from these statements of King Nigra that persons who follow the principles of fruitive activities and derive some material benefits are not very intelligent. Being given the choice by the superintendent of death, Yamaraj, King Nariga, could have first accepted the results of his pious activities instead. He thought it better first to receive the effects of his impious activities and then enjoy the effects of his pious activities without disturbance. On the whole, he had not developed Krishna consciousness. The Krishna conscious person develops love of God, Krishna, not love for pious or impious activities. Therefore, he is not subjected to the results of such action. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, a devotee, by the grace of the Lord, is not subjected for the reactions of fruitive activities.
Somehow or other, as a result of his pious activities, King Nriga had aspired to see the Lord, and he continued, "My dear Lord, I had a great desire that someday I might be able to see you personally. I think that this great desire to see you, combined with my tendency to perform ritualistic and charitable activities, has enabled me to retain the memory of you, of who I was in my former life, even though I become a lizard. Such a person who remembers his past life is called Jati Smara. In modern times also, there are instances of small children recalling many details of their past lives. My dear Lord, you are the super soul seated in everyone's heart. There are many great mystic yogis who have the eyes to see you through the Vedas and Upanishads. To achieve the elevated position of realizing that they are equal in quality with you, they always meditate on you within their hearts. But although such exalted saintly persons may see you constantly within their hearts, they still cannot see you face to face. Therefore, I am very much surprised that I am able to see you personally. I know that I was engaged in so many activities, especially as a king, although I was in the midst of luxury and opulence and was subject to so much of the happiness and misery of material existence. I am so fortunate to be seeing you personally. As far as I know, when one becomes liberated from material existence, he can see you in this way."
When King Nriga elected to receive the results of his impious activities, he was given the body of a lizard because of the mistake in his pious activities. Thus, he could not be directly converted to a higher status of life like a great demigod. However, along with his pious activities, he thought of Krishna. So, he was quickly released from the body of a lizard and given the body of a demigod. By worshipping the Supreme Lord, those who derive material opulences are given the bodies of powerful demigods. Sometimes these demigods can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, but they are still not yet eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the Vaikuntha planets. However, if the demigods continue to be devotees of the Lord, the next chance they get, they will enter into the Vaikuntha planets.
Having attained the body of a demigod, King Nirga, continuing to remember everything, said, "My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Lord, and are worshipped by all the demigods. You are not one of the ordinary living entities. You are the Supreme Person, Purushottama. You are the source of all happiness for all living entities. Therefore, you are known as Govinda. You are the Lord of those living entities who have accepted material bodies, and those who have not yet accepted material bodies. Among the living entities who have not accepted material bodies are those who hover in the material world as evil spirits or live in the ghostly atmosphere. However, those who live in the spiritual kingdom, the Vaikuntha Lokas, have bodies not made of material elements. You, my Lord, are infallible. You are the supreme, the purest of all living entities. You live in everyone's heart. You are the shelter of all living entities, Narayana. Being seated in the heart of all living beings, you are the supreme director of everyone's sensual activities. Therefore, you are called Hrishikesh."
My dear Supreme Lord Krishna, because you have given me this body of a demigod, I will have to go to some heavenly planet. So, I am taking this opportunity to beg for your mercy. I pray that I may have the benediction of never forgetting your lotus feet, no matter to which form of life or planet I may be transferred. You are all pervading, present everywhere as cause and effect. You are the cause of all causes, and your power is unlimited. You are the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, and the supreme Brahman. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. My dear Lord, your body is full of transcendental bliss and knowledge, and you are eternal. You are the master of all mystic powers, therefore, you are known as Yogeshwara. Kindly accept me as an insignificant particle of dust at your lotus feet.
Before entering the heavenly planets, King Nriga circumambulated the Lord, touched his helmet to the Lord's lotus feet, and bowed before him. Seeing the airplane from the heavenly planets present before him, he was given permission by the Lord to board it. After the departure of King Nriga, Lord Krishna expressed his appreciation for the king's devotion to the Brahmanas as well as his charitable disposition and his performance of Vedic rituals. Therefore, it is recommended that if one cannot directly become a devotee of the Lord, one should follow the Vedic principles of life. This will enable him one day to see the Lord by being promoted either directly to the spiritual kingdom or indirectly to the heavenly kingdom, whether he has hope of being transferred to the spiritual planets.
At this time, Lord Krishna was present among his relatives who were members of the Kshatriya class to teach them through the exemplary character of King Nirga. He said even though a Kshatriya king may be as powerful as fire, it is not possible for him to usurp the property of Brahmana and utilize it for his own purpose. If this is so, how can ordinary kings who falsely think themselves the most powerful beings within the material world usurp a Brahma's property? I do not think that taking poison is as dangerous as taking as Brahmana's property. For ordinary poison there is treatment, one can be relieved from its effects. But if one drink one but if one drink the poison of taking a Brahmana's property, there is no remedy for the mistake. The perfect example is King Nirga. He was very powerful and very pious, but due to the small mistake of unknowingly usurping a Brahmana's cow, he was condemned to the abominable life of lizard.
Ordinary poison affects only those who drink it, and ordinary fire can be extinguished simply by pouring water on it. But the Arani fire, ignited by the spiritual potency of a Brahmana who is dissatisfied, can burn to ashes the whole family of a person who provokes such a Brahmana. Formerly, the Brahmanas used to ignite the fire of sacrifice not with matches or any other external fire, but with their powerful mantras called Arani. If someone even touches a Brahmana's property, his family is ruined for 3 generations. However, if a Brahmana's property is forcibly taken away, the taker's family for 10 generations before him and 10 generations after will be subject to ruination. On the other hand, if someone becomes a pure Vaishnava or devotee of the Lord, 10 generations of his family before his birth and 10 generations after will be liberated.
Lord Krishna continued, if some foolish king who is puffed up by his wealth, prestige, and power wants to usurp a Brahmana's property, he should be understood to be clearing his path to hell. He doesn't know how much he has to suffer for such an unwise act. If someone takes away the property of a very liberal Brahmana who is encumbered by a large dependent family, then such a usurper is put into the hell known as Kumbhipaka. Not only is he put into this hell, but his family members also have to accept such a miserable condition of life. A person who takes away a Brahmana's property, whether it was originally given by him or someone else, is condemned to live for at least 60,000 years as a miserable insect in the stool. Therefore, I instruct you, all my boys and relatives present here, do not even by mistake take the possession of a Brahmana and thereby pollute your whole family.
Try to notice yourself, the half of the paragraph.
If someone even wishes to possess such property, let alone attempts to take it away by force, the duration of his life will be reduced. He will be defeated by his enemies. And after being bereft of his royal position, when he gives up his body, he'll become a serpent, giving trouble to all other living entities. My dear boys and relatives, I therefore advise you that even if a Brahmana becomes angry with you and calls you by ill names or curses you, still you should not retaliate. On the contrary, you should smile, tolerate him, and offer your respects to the Brahmanas. You know very well that even I myself offer my obeisances to the Brahmanas with great respect 3 times daily. You should therefore follow my instruction and example. I shall not forgive anyone who does not follow them, and I shall punish him. You should learn from the example of King Nriga that even if someone unknowingly usurps the property of a Brahmana, he is put into a miserable condition of life.
Thus, Lord Krishna who is always engaged in purifying the conditioned living entities, gave instruction not only to his family members and the inhabitants of Dwarka, but to all the members of human society. After this, the Lord entered his palace. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 64th chapter of Krishna, the story of King Nigra. Haribol.
Chapter 65. Chapter 65, Lord Balram visits Vrindavan. Lord Balaram became very anxious to see his father and mother in Vrindavan. Therefore, with great enthusiasm, he started on a chariot for Vrindavan. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had been anxious to see Krishna and Balaram for a very long time. When Lord Balaram returned to Vrindavan, all the cowherd boys and the gopis had grown up, but still, on his arrival, they all embraced him and Balaram embraced them in reciprocation. After this, he came before Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda and offered his respectful obeisances. In response, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj offered their blessings unto him. They addressed him as Jagadishwara, or the Lord of the universe, who maintains everyone. The reason for this was that Krishna and Balaram maintain all the living entities, and yet Nanda and Yashoda were put into such difficulties on account of their absence. Feeling like this, they embraced Balaram and seating him on their lap, began their perceptual crying, wetting Balaram with their tears. Lord Balaram then offered his respectful obeisances to the elderly cowherd men and accepted the obeisances of the younger cowherd men. Thus, according to their different ages and relationships, Lord Balaram exchanged the feeling of friendship with them. He shook hands with those who were his equal in age and friendship, with loud laughing embraced each of them.
After being received by the cowherd men and boys, the gopis and King Nanda and Yashoda, Lord Balaram sat down, feeling satisfied, and they all surrounded him. First, Lord Brahmana inquired from them about their welfare, and then, since they had not seen him for such a long time, they began to ask him different questions. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had sacrificed everything for Krishna, simply being captivated by the lotus eyes of the Lord. Because of their great desire to love Krishna, they never desired anything like elevation to the heavenly planets or merging into the effulgence of Brahman to become one with the absolute truth. They were not even interested in enjoying a life of opulence, but were satisfied in living in a simple life in the village as cowards. They were always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and did not desire any personal benefits. And they were also much in love with him that in his absence their voices faltered when they began to inquire from Balaramji.
First, Nanda Maharaja and Yashoda Mai inquired, "My dear Balaram, are our friends like Vasudev and others in the family doing well? Now, you and Krishna are grown up, married, men with children. In the happiness of family life, do you sometimes remember your poor father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi? It is very good news that the most sinful king, Kansa, has been killed by you, and that our friends like Vasudev and the others who had been harassed have now been relieved. It is also very good news that you and Krishna defeated Jarasandha and the Kalavayan, who is now dead, and that you are now living in a fortified residence in Dwarika."
When the gopis arrived, Lord Balarama glanced over them with loving eyes. Being overjoyed, the gopis who had so long been mortified on account of Krishna's and Balaram's absence began to ask about the welfare of the two brothers. They specifically asked Balarama whether Krishna was enjoying his life surrounded by the enlightened women of Dwaragapuri. Does he sometimes remember his father Nanda and his mother Yasoda and the other friends with whom he so intimately behaved while in Vrindavan? Does Krishna have any plans to come here to see his mother Yasoda, and does he remember us gopis who are now pitiably bereft of his company? Krishna may have forgotten us in the midst of the cultured women of Dwaraga, but as far as we are concerned, we still remember him by collecting flowers and sewing them into the garlands.
When he does not come, however, we simply pass our time by crying. If only he would come here and accept these gardens we have made. Dear Lord Balaram, descendant of Dasahar, you know that we would give up everything for Krishna's friendship. Even in great distress, one cannot give up the connection of family members. But although it might be impossible for others, we gave up our fathers, mothers, sisters, and relatives. But then Krishna, without caring a pinch for our renunciation, all of a sudden renounced us and went away. He broke off our intimate relationship without serious consideration and left for a foreign country. But he was so clever and cunning that he manufactured very nice words. He said, "My dear gopis, please do not worry. The service you have rendered me is impossible for me to repay. After all, we are women, so how could we disbelieve him? Now we can understand that his sweet words were simply for cheating us."
Protesting Krishna's absence from Vrindavan, another gopi said, "My dear Balramji, we are of course village girls, so Krishna could cheat us in that way. But what about the women of Dwarka? Don't think they are as foolish as we are. We village women might be misled by Krishna, but the women in the city of Dwarka are very clever and intelligent. Therefore, I would be surprised if such city women could be misled by Krishna and could believe his words."
Then another gopi began to speak. "My dear friend," she said, "Krishna is very clever in using words. No one can compete with him in that art. He can manufacture such colorful words and talk so sweetly that the heart of any woman would be misled. Besides that, he has perfected the art of smiling very attractively, and by seeing his smile, women become mad after him and give themselves to him without hesitation."
Another gopi, after hearing this, said, "My dear friends, what is the use of talking about Krishna? If you are at all interested in passing time by talking, let us talk on some subject other than him. If cruel Krishna can pass his time without us, why can't we pass our time without Krishna? Of course, Krishna is passing his days without us very happily, but we cannot pass our days happily without him."
When the gopis were talking in this way, their feelings for Krishna became more and more intense, and they were experiencing Krishna's smiling, Krishna's words of love, Krishna's attractive features, Krishna's characteristics, and Krishna's embraces. By the force of their ecstatic feelings, it appeared to them that Krishna was personally present and dancing before them. Because of their sweet remembrance of Krishna, they could not check their tears and they cried without consideration.
Lord Balram, of course, could understand the ecstatic feelings of the gopis, and therefore he wanted to pacify them. He was expert in presenting an appeal and thus treating the gopis very respectfully. He began to narrate the stories of Krishna so tactfully that the gopis became satisfied. To keep the gopis in Vrindavan satisfied, Lord Balram stayed there continuously for 2 months, namely the months of Chaitra, March to April, and Vaishak, April to May. For those 2 months, he kept himself among the gopis and he passed every night with them in the forest of Vrindavan to satisfy their desire for conjugal love.
Thus, Balaram also enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis during these 2 months. Since the season was springtime, the breeze on the bank of the Yamuna was blowing very mildly, carrying the aroma of different flowers, especially the flower known as Kaumudi. Moonlight filled with the sky and spread everywhere, and thus the banks of the Yamuna appeared very bright and pleasing, and Lord Balaram enjoyed the company of the gopis there. The demigod known as Varuna sent his daughter Varuni in the form of liquid honey oozing from the hollows of the trees. Because of this honey, the whole forest became aromatic, and the sweet aroma of the liquid honey, Varuni, captivated Balaramji. Balaramji and all the gopis became very much attracted by the taste of the Varuni, and all of them drank it together.
While drinking this natural beverage, all the gopis chanted the glories of Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram felt very happy, as if he had become intoxicated by drinking that Varuni beverage. His eyes rolled in a pleasing attitude. He was decorated with long garlands of forest flowers, and the whole situation appeared to be a great function of happiness because of this transcendental bliss. Lord Balaram smiled beautifully, and the drops of perspiration decorating his face appeared like soothing morning dew.
While Balram was in that happy mood, he desired to enjoy the company of the gopis and the water of the Yamuna. Therefore, he called the Yamuna to come nearby. But the Yamuna neglected the order of Balaramji, considering him intoxicated. Lord Balaram became very much displeased at the Yamuna's neglecting his order. He immediately wanted to scratch the land near the river with his plowshare. Lord Balaram has 2 weapons, a plow and a club, from which he takes service when they are required. This time he wanted to bring the Yamuna by force. He took the help of his plow. He wanted to punish the Yamuna because she did not come in obedience to his order. He addressed the Yamuna, "You wretched river, you did not care for my order. Now I shall teach you a lesson. You did not come for me voluntarily. Now, with the help of my plow, I shall force you to come. I shall divide you into hundreds of scattered streams."
When the Yamuna was threatened like this, she became greatly afraid of the power of Balaram and immediately came in person, falling at his lotus feet and praying thus: "My dear Balaram, you are the most powerful personality and you are pleasing to everyone. Unfortunately, I forgot your glorious, exalted position, but now I have come to my senses, and I remember that you hold all the planetary systems on your head merely by your partial expansion, etc. You are the sustainer of the whole universe. My dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are full with 6 opulences. Because I forgot your omnipotence, I have mistakenly disobeyed your order, and thus I have become a great offender. But my dear Lord, please know that I am a soul surrendered unto you, who are very affectionate to your devotees. Therefore, please excuse my impudence and mistakes, and by your causeless mercy, may you now release me.
Upon displaying this submissive attitude, the Yamuna was forgiven, and when she came nearby, Lord Balarama enjoyed the pleasure of swimming in her water along with the gopis in the same way that an elephant enjoys himself along with his many she-elephants. After a long time, when Lord Balaram had enjoyed to his full satisfaction, he came out of the water, and immediately a goddess of fortune offered him a nice blue garment and a valuable necklace made of gold. After bathing in the Yamuna, Lord Balarama, dressed in blue garments and decorated with golden ornaments, looked very attractive to everyone. Lord Balarama's complexion is white, and when he was properly dressed, he looked exactly like the white elephant of King Indra in the heavenly planets. The river Yamuna still has many small branches due to being scratched by the plowshare of Lord Balarama. And all these branches of the river Yamuna still glorify the omnipotence of Lord Balarama.
Lord Balarama and the gopis enjoyed transcendental pastimes together every night for 2 months, and time passed so quickly that all those nights appeared to be only one night. In the presence of Lord Balarama, all the gopis and other inhabitants of Vrindavana became as cheerful as they had been before in the presence of both brothers, Lord Krishna and Lord Balarama. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 65th chapter of Krishna. Lord Balarama visits Vrindavana. Hari Bol.
So my dear devotees, that concludes our 1 hour of reading Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, thank you. We're so grateful that you allow us this opportunity. And as always, we will offer our respectful obeisances to you and to each other. Namo Vishnuvedaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskachadi Shatarane, and to each other Vanchakalpadruvischa Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So next week we will begin with chapter 66, the deliverance of Pondraka and the king of Kashi. For those of you online, you can follow the subtitles at the bottom of the screen, and this will help you to follow along. Hare Krishna, Jai Krishna Book, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai Mahadevi Mataji. Jai.